Although islands may be a good choice for a place to escape during the zombie apocalypse, you have to choose wisely. The natural boundaries of oceans or rivers seems to make people feel that these islands are a good place to test out nuclear weapons, leave toxic waste, or even completely engulf them in trash. Here are the world's most toxic islands. Number 12. Nauru. The smallest island nation in the world is Nauru, located east of Australia, which could be one of the most polluted places per capita. The history behind this country might not be as charming as some of the others, but we're not going to sugarcoat anything. This tiny island nation was exploited for its heavy deposits of phosphate, which is normally used for fertilizer, and enjoyed a steady income until the 1980s. Nowadays, all the phosphate is gone, and the country has a 90% unemployment rate, and plastic pollution washes up on the shores to top it off. This country also leads the world in obesity, with roughly 40% of its citizens suffering from obesity. Number 11. 3 Mile Island, Pennsylvania. After a nuclear meltdown took place on 3 Mile Island, the American people began to get a little bit skeptical of nuclear power. In March of 1979, reactor number 2 began emitting radiation after the cooling system broke down. Radiation was detected a mile away from the plant. Molten uranium began melting through the reactor, and it was thought that it could potentially explode because of a hydrogen bubble. The cleanup effort of over 100 tons of radioactive fuel had to be removed from the site, costing at least $1 billion. That's one expensive mistake. Many are convinced that the island is no longer dangerous, and it certainly could have been a lot worse than it actually was. Number 10. Staten Island, New Jersey. Staten Island might not be completely radioactive or infected with weaponized anthrax, so what is it doing on this list? There have been oil spills off the island's north shore, and traces of uranium have been found due to the island's role in the Manhattan Project. Lead and arsenic have also been found, which believed to trace back when these chemicals were used in pesticides. New York City already has some of the worst smog levels in the world, but it gets even worse on the island of Staten. It has one of the highest levels of smog among the city's 5 boroughs, and the ozone grade here has gotten Fs on its report card. This is from gas released by automobiles, cars, factories, power plants, etc. Studies have indicated high cancer rates here, according to the New York Times. It was also home to the Fresh Kills landfill, which was the world's largest landfill until it closed in 2001. We should also mention briefly that it was the filming location for The Toxic Avenger, helping it make a place on this list. This is a totally crazy movie from the 80s, by the way. If you've seen it before, let us know in the comments section. Number 9. Thilafushi, Maldives. Typically, when you go to the Maldives, you expect luxury, seclusion, and relaxation under the sun. Thilafushi Island was built on top of reclaimed coral reefs in 1992, not to house a 5-star resort, but to house the garbage left by tourists and locals alike. They claim that electronic rubbish is the most damaging and has the potential to pollute the ocean with heavy metals. It was built as a landfill and given the nickname of Garbage Island. In 2005, it's estimated that 31,000 truckloads of garbage were transported to this island, and it continues to grow each year at a rate of 365,000 square feet a day. It seems to be a ticking time bomb for pollution because it only has an elevation of 6 feet. Could you imagine if a tsunami hit this place? Here's a quick question for you guys. Can you tell us the name of the largest e-waste dump located in Africa? It's not an island, but it definitely makes you appreciate life here in America. Number 8. Mururoa and Fangatafa. In case you thought the Americans were the only ones experimenting with nuclear weapons in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, think again. The islands of Mururoa and Fangatafa became the next victims of the new devastating technology at that time, and even General de Gaulle got an up-close look at the champignon atomique. A few were dropped by bomber airplanes, some were detonated from barges, while the rest were suspended by helium balloons. Now that's one heck of a way to go fishing. Greenpeace claimed that it was raining dead fish, and it spread contamination as far away as New Zealand to the west and Chile to the east. Protests and even embargoes on French wine led to the end of France's nuclear tests. Number 7. Novaya Zemlya. The largest nuclear bomb ever dropped was tested by the Russians in 1961 in the Novaya Zemlya archipelago. The bomb was extremely large in size, weighing 27 metric tons, and it measured 8 meters long by 2 meters in diameter. A bomb this large isn't really too useful, considering the best method to destroy things would be to use mini-bombs scattered throughout a large range. The largest device tested by Americans was equivalent to 15 megatons of TNT, while this bomb dropped by Russia yielded 57 megatons. The blast was so powerful that it almost killed the pilot who was flying the plane. It's been described as the single most physically powerful device ever used by mankind, and the mushroom cloud you see in this photo is rather shocking to say the least. Number 6. Volskaya Dania Island. This island is located in what was the Aral Sea before it disappeared mysteriously. It was here where the Soviet Union constructed the top-secret biological weapons testing facility called Aral 7. You can explore this place on Google Maps and you'll find some eerie ghost towns and abandoned places. You can see the main laboratory where crews tested multiple effects of fatal diseases and how to spread them effectively. Working here, you can imagine that wearing a gas mask was absolutely necessary. They worked on horrific agents including anthrax, smallpox, the Black Plague, and more. In 1971, weaponized smallpox was accidentally released, killing 3 people and infecting 10. Oops. Due to the shrinking of the Aral Sea, the island is more of a peninsula now. Many claim there are still large stockpiles of anthrax buried here underneath the facility. Anthrax spores can survive underground for decades, so if you come here, bring some hand sanitizer. Number 5. Izu Islands. If you ever have to wear a gas mask on an island, you should probably consider it to be pretty toxic. These are some of Japan's volcanic islands which often spew sulfur gas into the air. The islands themselves are beautiful, but there's a serious problem. With increased levels of volcanic gases, residents of these islands have to wear some creepy gas masks just about all the time. This photo here was taken at a wedding at the Izu Islands, and you can see they won't even take off masks during special moments like this. Why don't they just move already? You can tell in this photo that people have different styles of gas masks, and it appears as though everyone is living in some kind of apocalyptic underworld. Number 4. Runa Island. Located in northwestern Scotland, this oval-shaped island is about a mile wide and a half-mile long, but it's been home to some mysterious incidents in the past. It was once full of trees, but it's now completely treeless. In 1942, British military scientists chose this island as a testing site for biological weapons during the Second World War. In order to test anthrax as a weapon of mass destruction, it was bombarded with several anthrax bombs using sheep as test dummies. To no one's surprise, all the sheep didn't make it. In 1945, the man who owned the island wanted his land back, but the British Ministry of Supply claimed that the island was now unfit for human habitation. Number 3. Johnston Atoll. Located in the heart of the Pacific, this extremely remote island has been under the control of the US military for the past 70 years. It was originally a bird sanctuary, but when tests needed to be done, it was transformed into a naval refueling depot and an airbase used to drop bombs on other innocent islands in the Pacific. A lot of shady stuff seemed to go on here, and many nuclear and biological weapons were stored here. Parts of this island were artificially constructed in top secrecy in order for it to expand from a small reef. The area was also used for atmospheric nuclear testing as well. On July 9, 1962, a 1.4 megaton explosion was detonated at an altitude of 250 miles, resulting in an electromagnetic pulse. This was dubbed as Operation Starfish Prime, and it created a massive fireball in the sky, knocking out communications as far away as Hawaii. Number 2. Novaya Atoll. When the US was testing nuclear weapons in the Pacific, things began to get a little bit out of control, and some strange stuff was going on. Over 23 massive nuclear and hydrogen bombs were dropped here. This photo here shows a large concrete lid placed over the crater of a nuclear test called Cactus in their attempt to contain the radioactive materials left over. This was a very beautiful island known as Runa Island with much wildlife and tropical trees. Many strange experiments often took place on this atoll, including one called Operation Ivy. They even tested unmanned airplanes flying through mushroom clouds after hydrogen bomb detonations took place to see what radioactivity would do. Runa Island is now deemed uninhabitable for the next 24,000 years due to all the plutonium that's scattered here. Workers on this island began suffering from many health complications related to radiation exposure, and the government even tried to convince the locals here that it was totally safe to move back. And number 1, but first, how do you think animals can adapt to such rapid changes over time? And do you think they'll have to evolve to be able to be radiation and plastic resistant? Let us know in the comment section your response, and maybe we'll feature you in an upcoming video. Number 1. Henderson Island. Deemed as completely uninhabitable by the United Nations, Henderson Island was virtually untouched by man's existence until single-use plastic materials began washing up on the shores. Henderson Island is extremely remote and makes up a part of the Pitcairn Islands, a British overseas territory. A recently published report stated that it had the highest density of plastic rubbish anywhere in the world. So if no one lives here, how the heck did plastic get everywhere? It's because of what's known as the South Pacific Year, and there's an estimated 37.7 million items of debris on this island. The ocean's current and the Coriolis effect help the large amounts of plastic drift to this remote place. This photo here shows a coconut crab that's stuck inside a plastic container, and that's only the tip of the iceberg. So what do you guys think was the most interesting? Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and maybe we'll feature you in an upcoming video.